I think I'm gonna just start doing diaries. Because at this point, I just got a lot of shit on my brain and I need to dump it into the universe. I don't care if anybody listens. I just need to get it out of my head. Keep scrolling through on the internet. And I keep seeing, commentators talk about, Trump versus Kamala, da-da-da. The one thing that keeps coming back is when people talk about how America chose to vote for a 34-time convicted felon over a highly qualified black woman, the often refrain that we get, or that I see, particularly from white people, is that, well, if she couldn't beat a felon, that means she was a bad candidate. No, it doesn't mean she was a bad candidate. And this is part of the problem as to why I'm kind of over dealing with white people, for the most part, and interfacing with them, is because they do this thing that they have been programmed to do, in which they try to blame the victim or the marginalized group for what happened to them. And that is very prevalent in that particular line of thought. To try to make it her fault that Donald Trump won means that you completely ignore the legions and millions of mostly white people who decided to vote for a white supremacist criminal. And to say, well, if she couldn't convince them, it's her fault. You're effectively saying that their reasoning and rationale for voting for a white supremacist pedophilic criminal was acceptable. Their rationale was acceptable. And all you're doing when you run with that line of thought is literally giving cover and protection to a morally bankrupt group of people. It's the same line of logic and thought that has white people looking at certain people in the black community and saying, why hasn't your community gotten better? It's the same type of racist ass logic and thinking. And they say that as if we don't know the underlying racism behind what they're doing, the underlying racism and thinking behind what they're saying. When they comment on the state of the black community and why things haven't improved, even though things have, they completely ignore all of the bullshit that came before. Not just the laws that were put into place that we had to actively try to counteract with things like the Civil Rights Act and anti-lynching laws and other things. They also ignore how those laws inform culture and how culture informed those laws and how culture informs their own thinking. And this desire for y'all, especially those of you who claim to be liberal, to constantly try to run away from the reality of the moral failure of white America is the reason why I really don't want to fuck with you. And then they'll inevitably bring up Barack Obama. Well, we voted for Barack, so we can't be racist. Yes, you can. You literally are using him like a fucking token. And I would argue that for white people in this fucking country, the only reason you voted for that black man was because you can use him as a token. Y'all didn't vote for him because you genuinely thought and wanted to change any aspect of this country. Because if you genuinely cared about equity in this country, y'all would have put more effort, not just into voting for him to say you did something, because that's all y'all did. Y'all voted for him just to say you did it. If you actually cared about equity in this country, about getting rid of white supremacy, about getting rid of inequality, you would have actively have worked in other ways besides voting towards those ends. And you didn't. In fact, after he got his 2 terms, you put a fucking white supremacist in the goddamn White House. Don't sit here and tell me that y'all cared about equity. And then it's like I see them use him against Kamala, and it's like, that's why y'all love tokens. Y'all love to take a few black people, give them some access to power in the most superficial ass sense without doing any real work to upend the system solely because you can use them as triangulation against the black community at large, against other black people down the line. That's why y'all do that shit. Y'all don't give a fuck. Y'all hate us just as much as your racist ass parents and grandparents hated us. You haven't fucking changed. And I am at a point where I am so sick and tired of dealing with you and your fucking lies and deception and fucking manipulation. I am not at a point in my life where I am willing to not tell you the truth about your bullshit. You are not gonna gaslight me, you evil bitch. You are not gonna manipulate me, you evil bitch, and you are not gonna fucking lie to me either, you evil white fucking devil. I don't give a fuck if it hurts your feelings. I don't care anymore because it has become painfully evident from your inaction that you are okay with the oppression and the fucking inequality. And it doesn't matter that you do this superficial bullshit where you pretend that you care, a la on some Bernie Sanders shit, where you want to sit here and talk about so-and-so was part of the civil rights movement when he showed up to like one march that one time, like he actually put in work like a fucking John Lewis, or a fucking Al Green, or a fucking Jim Clyburn, or Maxine Waters, or a Sheila Jackson Lee. Y'all take y'all performative bullshit and you want us to treat it as if it actually matters, as if it actually has changed anything. It hasn't changed shit. None of you have done any fucking work to change any goddamn thing. Why do you think we have a fucking white supremacist in the White House? And then you want to sit here and try to blame us or blame Kamala. and then try to use Barack as a goddamn triangulation manipulation tactic to cover up for the fact that you fucking are failures and that you never really gave a fuck about us and you never fucking will. It hasn't even been 1 year, and this man has done untold damage to the United States. And to be quite honest, given the behavior of a lot of these white folks and their inaction and their inability to do anything and their constant desire to try to blame and obfuscate and shift responsibility onto everybody else except themselves individually, why haven't the Democrats done anything? Democrats don't have any power. What do you want them to do? What can they do that would actually be of use, that would actually stop him? But again, that's the same thing, where you're just trying to shift responsibility onto someone else and something else instead of taking aim at the true problem, which is the goddamn Republican Party. Dude, I'm pissed. But at the same time, if this is what you want, if these are the games you want to play, if y'all want to sit here and pretend that America as a country isn't racist as shit, if y'all want to sit here and pretend that America as a country isn't sexist as shit, if y'all want to sit here and blame everyone else except the people who actually helped to orchestrate this shit, I genuinely do not give a fuck about what happens to this country. And I sincerely hope he burns this bitch to the ground. Because that's what you deserve. You deserve to have this entire thing burned to the fucking ground. But what does that mean for you? I don't know what it means for me. It could mean I burn too. I don't give a fuck. I am at that point. And I'm at that point because I'm just coming to the realization of how dense so many of you are and your lack of a desire to actually change things. You are the most superficial, bullshitting ass bunch of people I have ever fucking seen in my fucking life. You have all of this history to learn from, to study, to read up on, and you are still doing the same racist ass shit your parents and your grandparents or your great grandparents did, and you want to sit here and look at us like we don't fucking see you for who the fuck you are.